Welcome to our brand new Ignite Sparks podcast. I'm Community Relations Manager Julie Duell and your host for this new and exciting podcast designed to tell you all about what's happening here in our beautiful city. Our goal is to keep you informed of the many projects, programs, activities, initiatives, and yes, even people that are unique and important to Sparks. We'll also keep you updated on important regional initiatives and issues as well. The Ignite Sparks podcast will be released twice a month and will be available on your favorite podcast platform or on our website. I'm Julie Duell. Welcome to Ignite Sparks. This is our first episode, and we're excited to bring you great information about what's happening here in the city of Sparks. My guest today is Mayor Ed Lawson. He was sworn in as the city's 26th mayor in September 2020, so just over a year ago. He was elected to the Sparks City Council in 2010 and re-elected in 2014 and 2018. He was also appointed Mayor Pro Tem in 2018. Mayor Lawson was born in Sunnyside, Washington, grew up in Las Vegas, and attended Colorado State University on a football scholarship. He and his wife Diane have two grown sons who both graduated from the University of Nevada, Reno. So welcome, Mayor Lawson. Thank you for coming. And I just wanted to start with you becoming our 26th mayor. And I know I've heard you say that you always wanted to be mayor, but not necessarily in the way you became mayor.
It was always my intention to run for mayor in 22. I didn't want to become mayor this way. I don't want to have to lose my friend over it, but that's why we have these contingencies in place. It happens, and I'm sorry, but it's just the way it is. So I'll run in 22, and hopefully we'll show some support and some of the things that I'm doing that I believe are good for our city.
Well, that's exactly what I really wanted to talk to you about. So let's just jump right in. I know that, becoming mayor in the middle of a pandemic, that had to have been a little tricky. Can you talk about that a little?
Well, becoming the mayor wasn't probably as scary as that in the pandemic. It was the lead up into those times when in March, we basically shut down the world. And, we rely heavily upon our taxes and especially our consumer taxes. And we were preparing like it was 2010 again, where we were preparing to lay people off. And that is not a lot of fun. It's not good for employee morale. It's not good for anybody. And it's horrible in the aspect that we lose a lot of knowledge that walks out the door when we have to lay off people. But we're in a different situation than the federal government. We have to balance our budget. We don't have a choice. So we can't just print more money. There's no Sparks dollars out there. So those few months were very tumultuous. And I think Neil Kreutz, our city manager, did a wonderful job. We were prepared as we could be, and then the CARES Act money came and it solved all of our problems financially. Obviously, there's still a human toll that it took, and the quarantining and the people, the officers and the fire people, and just regular folks that work for the city. And we have over 800 employees here that were out sick, and we were having to deal with all of that. And how do you deal with those shortages? So there's some challenges that came along with it, but I would say I was kind of uniquely prepared in that I had gone through it in 2010 when the Great Recession, and we lived with that for the last 10 years basically in getting our staffing levels. We laid off 40% of our staff, and we probably only hired back about half of them. So we're still understaffed, but at the same time, I think we're more efficient. So I think things are going in a good direction for us. But that was the scary part, is that we were going to relive 2010 all over again and that whole teens part of the decade.
Well, I know you mentioned CARES Act funding, and that really, we were able to help so many people too in our community as well.
Yep, we were able to give rental assistance to, I think about half of our money went to rental assistance for families to keep them in their homes, which we absolutely want. We love our families here. We're a family-oriented community. We want to continue to be a family-oriented community. And then we gave about $1 million to some small businesses to keep them going too. we think that paid off in spades also because of their business being down. If you remember, it wasn't that long ago that you couldn't go in a restaurant and pick up your food. You had to go out and sit in your car and wait for them to bring it out to you.
Right.
And so many things. I mean, it seems so distant now, but it's still clear in my mind that, just how bad it was.
Right. And I know so many businesses were really suffering. So that was a big initiative for City of Sparks to really help those. And I know there was food insecurity. There was all sorts of things that we also helped give money towards.
Yeah, I forgot the amount, but I think it was $150,000 we gave to the food bank and to help with that food insecurity, because there are people that were out of work, obviously, no fault of their own. And we wanted to make sure, that our families, once again, is that they were taken care of.
One of the things too is I was thinking about just being a family-oriented town, and I know that is something that we pride ourselves on here at the City of Sparks. And tell me how much that means to you, just being family-oriented.
Well, to me, that's really the backbone to your community. And when I say family-oriented, don't take that as any kind of code word for anything other than I really don't care what your family looks like. Black, white, Hispanic, gay, lesbian, I don't care. We want you to be here, we want you to be happy, and we want you to feel safe to raise your children. And that's what I when I say family oriented, I mean every family, not just a particular group of families. So to me, that's the most important thing, is that you have that safety and the ability to be who you are and to raise your family in a good, safe place.
And I know you have a lot of initiatives just talking about that, about making the city a safe place, about development, about lands bill, city centers, that kind of thing. Let's dive right into some of those important initiatives that really you're making kind of a staple, what you really believe in.
Well, the lands bill is something that it just kind of came out of a dream one night. I had a meeting with Lance Gilman out at Story County, and we're talking about it, and he showed me a map. And on the left side of it was Reno and Sparks, and on the right side of it was the Tri-Center. And you could put Reno and Sparks inside of the Tri-Center. And I thought, what in the heck, why are we not embracing this? There's 50,000 jobs going to be in this county, this Story County, which only has 4,200 residents. But there's 50,000 jobs there. Why are we not embracing this? Why are we not growing to them? Why are we not making that effort to be more a part of Story County? So the lands bill kind of came out of that as I woke up in the middle of the night. And if you look at 395 and I-80, it's kind of a V shape. And there's a land that's east of Sparks going to Story County, out where USA Parkway is. And it just made sense to grow that area into Story County, and especially our industrial center. If you've been to Sparks, you know that our industrial center is on the river, and every city in America would love to have a river run through it. Well, we have a river runs through Sparks, but it's covered up with tilt-up concrete buildings. So I would rather see us put some housing down there, which we're looking at doing. We're going to put a residential overlay and use that River City Center district, is what we're kind of calling it, for lack of a better name right now, to get we think we can get 20 or 25,000 people living down there. That will change the game for the city of Sparks. It will also change the way our river looks, and that's, I think, super important. Right now, between the Vista Narrows and the city of Reno, along the river from I-80 to the river south, there's less than 100 people live in this huge area. And it just makes sense that we have this river. Why are we not living along our river? I mean, 70% of the world lives around some kind of water.
Right.
And here we got it, and we don't have anybody living on it.
Right. So when you talk about that, so how would that even take place? What does that look like for the future?
Well, the lands bill is the most important thing. And the other thing that wasn't started 6 years ago, when I really pushed this lands bill to get started, was we're about 5 years away of running out of land in Sparks, and maybe closer to 5 to 10 years to running out in Reno. When we run out of land, we might as well be San Francisco and be surrounded by ocean. And because if you can't build on the land, it does you absolutely no good. So that's why we need to have this expansion out to the east. There's other parts of this land spill that Reno and Washoe County want too, but I think the most important part is that for us, obviously I can't speak for Reno or Washoe County, but I think the most important part for us is to move our industrial up on the hill closer to Story County. And then the widget makers have a quicker commute, to go over and deliver their products. We'll customize their parcel size to fit the business. Currently in Story County, it's 500 acres and above. We're going to do 500 acres and below. And at this point, in this juncture, I don't think you can find 100 acres for if you wanted to build a building that required 100 acres for. So it's important for us to have that stock. That will also help encourage those warehouses that are along the river that are in the flood zone to move up there because it's less expensive. You don't, if you're along the flood zone, you got to basically insulate up 4 to 5 feet off the ground. And if you have any kind of storage of sensitive stuff, paper materials or anything that gets wet and would be ruined, you don't even want to be down there. So
right.
We're just looking at this as a holistic approach, and every piece kind of fits with every other piece, and gets more. If we don't get the land spill, I don't know what we're going to do. I mean, we're going to get our affordable housing is probably out the window because we're going to have to go up, and when you go up, it's more expensive to build.
So let's talk about that a little bit. Before we talk about that, though, I wanted to mention the lands bill. Does that include the road that you've been talking about?
Right now, if you live in Spanish Springs, you have to drive down Pyramid Highway, Vista, or Sparks Boulevard to get on I-80
right.
to go out to USA Parkway to go to work. Well, if you look at the top of the V, it's a way shorter commute. And the city of Sparks did an environmental study through DRI, and if we just got 10,000 cars a day on this road that would go from La Posada out to USA Parkway, it cuts the commute basically in half, and it saves 25 tons of carbon emissions every single day.
Wow.
So it's an environmentally sound road. It's also cutting that commute time in half for our folks, and it's taking pressure off of the major thoroughfare, which is I-80, and getting goods and services to the rest of the country. With the dredging of the Port of Oakland a few years back, they get much bigger ships in there now, so they have much more cargo. So that just helps all the way around. And as you know, if you've ever gotten stuck in traffic on I-80 out in the canyon, it could be 2 to 5 hours that you're stuck there. Now, if you work at a job in Story County, you're not getting paid for that. So you have to make that up somewhere along the road. So I think just from the safety part, the convenience part, the environmental part, the road works, the expansion works. I mean, all of it works together.
It's all part of a very big picture that all the pieces kind of fit together.
It's the puzzle, putting the puzzle together.
Right.
Now, we don't have all the answers for sure, but we're finding out. I'm giving a speech several times a month to business community and others. Spoke to the Northern Nevada Trades Council just last week and talking about the vision for what we're having, and they get it. They understand. They see the same things that we see. We see our children graduating from college and not being able to stay in town because they can't afford a house. They can't afford to pay 20, 30, 40% over asking price.
Right.
That some of our new neighbors from California are able to do. So we're losing some of our Nevada kids, and I think, as a proud Nevadan, we don't want to lose all of our kids. Both of mine graduated during the Great Recession and had to leave the area. So consequently, I don't have my sons here with me, which I would love to have Sunday dinner with them. Those are the kind of things that we miss out on.
Right. So what does that look like then as far as trying to keep our kids here? What kind of initiatives would we like to put in place to help with affordable housing, or some of the initiatives that maybe are some of the things that are kind of driving our people that can't afford to be here away?
Well, I think the biggest thing that we're looking at is creating our city centers. And if you've been in downtown Sparks and seen the apartments that are going down there, we're going to have 5,000 people basically living in a 6 square block area. Now that creates its own energy by itself. and just having that amount of people in that small of an area. So now you start to see businesses come. And when I'll say that we have made it when we see a supermarket or a market.
I've heard a lot of people wanting that, yes.
As soon as there's a market goes in downtown Sparks, then we've arrived. And I think that's our critical mass point where it's going to create its own momentum from that standpoint. And that whole entertainment district, the downtown area with the concert venue, the movie theater, the Nugget, all these things, that there's so much to do. And there's great food too at the Nugget. There's great food with our restaurateurs around there. We even have a winery down there. Engine 8 Urban Winery is they're doing a wonderful job. So I think this whole momentum is really happening, and we want to take that momentum and move it to the other areas like the River District and create its own city center in itself. In the European model, they've been doing this for thousands of years. You have a city center that may be your leather goods manufacturer, and then the next one might be the fishing village center, or the kind of deals. And if you wanted to go from city center to city center, you take public transportation or ride your bicycle or however to get there, because parking is an issue.
Right.
So that's what we're hoping to create, where you still can park, but it would be more convenient for you to jump on public transportation and go from the downtown city center to the Audi District city center. So, which
is kind of a new upcoming.
Audi is one that we've identified recently as a great place for growth. We reached out to the Hispanic community. We're trying to put together a task force now to see how they want to grow, because the old Lowe's building got sold. That's going to be artist lofts and a generator for Burning Man. They're talking about a brewery pub in there and everything having glass walls so you can see all around and see what everybody's doing, and creating its own little entertainment. But there's a place in LA, it's called Olivero Street, and that's created its own synergy down there. And I'm thinking that we could have something that duplicates off of that, because a large percentage of our population in that area is Hispanic. And Audi happens to just loop right over into Wells, and Wells is the concentration of Hispanic businesses there. So to me, that's a natural connection together, and also easy for public transportation to get there. And so I think, just everything kind of flows together, and one thing goes off another, and then kind of push another direction, and then it just seems to be working out.
Well, and it's interesting because you have both sides of the story, right? So people are saying, oh, I don't like this downtown area. I don't like the city center area. I don't know that they necessarily understand what a city center is. And I do hear, just through social media and things like that, people saying, oh my goodness, there's no parking in Victorian Square. There's, too many people in Victorian Square. But there is parking. There's a lot of parking, as a matter of fact, down there. But tell me a little bit about, I know you kind of mentioned it, but the excitement of being able to live in an apartment and watch one of the concerts right out your window. I mean, how exciting is that?
That's funny you say that. A friend of mine, she is a widow that has a business and very successful, had a big house out in Spanish Springs, and decided that she didn't want to take care of a big house anymore. Right. So she actually moved into the deco. And I said, that surprises me that you would do that. She goes, you know what? I don't want to take care of the yard anymore. I don't want to do that. I want to be able to walk out my door and get a cup of coffee or go to dinner or whatever. Go to a concert, go to the movies, and just be able to walk right out my door. So there's a whole other culture in this, and the city centers work in two ways. One, it creates that housing that's more affordable for the folks that are just graduating from college or just getting out in high school, getting their career started. And let me tell you, we got to have the trades. We got to have all the trades for sure.
Right.
That's the way that we keep our kids here, is by having good jobs, and the trades pay good wages, and they're good for our community. So, but that circle of life kind of a deal is, so you're there after college, in high school, and then maybe you go out into the suburbs and you raise your kids, and then it's time to retire. You move back to the city center again, because once again I can walk to everything I want to do.
It is exciting to see that energy down there, and I've been down there and I'm super excited that now events are starting to come back, and you start to just feel that energy down there, the concerts, the rib cook-off, the hot August nights, things like that are coming back. So how excited are you about that?
Even 4th of July, we had
Yes.
so much fun. Chewy brought the dancing horses in,
Yeah.
and it was just a kick to watch these guys with their dancing horses and the things that they can do. And it just, all that kind of, it's creating its own vibe down there.
Yeah.
And I get where some people, they want to stay the same and they don't want to see growth. And hey, I'm here now. We got to close the door. Well, that's not the way that we work in Nevada. We can't work that way. And because of our property tax system.
Right.
We have the most regressive property tax system in America.
Let's talk about that. Let's get into that a little bit too.
This is probably the reason why we have to be so creative and we have to grow, in that we don't have our property tax system. Number one, let's just use some numbers. Say you have $100,000 house. The first thing that state of Nevada does is discount that house by 65%. So I'm not paying tax on 65% of the value of that house at $100,000. So now I'm only paying on 35% or 35,000. But during the next 50 years, I get to discount that as the home, the home itself, not at the homeowner, discounts 1.5% per year for 50 years, or reducing your taxes by 75%. So you're paying 25% on 35%. So you can see the minuscule number that
Right.
As the houses get older, you are getting less and less tax. Well, what happens in that is, we have, employees that need to keep up with the cost of living. So between the depreciation and cost of living, a brand new house basically starts losing money for us at about 4 to 5 years. So
Wow.
we have to continually be building new homes. And you look at Las Vegas, that's what they've done. They grow their way out of their issues. But at some point, Vegas is going to run out of water. They're going to run out of land. They're going to run out of something. And the piper is going to have to be paid. There's been no political will at the state legislature to change this property tax, even though it would help schools tremendously. And all we're asking from the local level, from my desk as mayor and when I was councilman, just reset the value of the house upon sale. So if I live in my house for 50 years, I bought it for $100,000, it's now worth $1 million, and I sell it to the guy for $1 million, why isn't he paying taxes on $1 million?
Instead, he's paying taxes for the 100,000.
On the 100,000.
Right.
That's inherently just not fair. That the folks that can afford it are not paying their fair share of taxes.
And that's unique to Nevada, right? I mean,
We're the only state that does it.
Right.
Only state. So it's got to get changed at some point. The pain of staying the same will create the change, as I say a lot. But I don't. Hopefully we see it changing while I'm still alive, because it will come back to bite us in the end. Especially when you're 85% of all your property in the state of Nevada is federally owned.
And you mentioned water too. And I mean, that's something that I hear a lot about is, oh my goodness, you've got a development going in. We don't have enough water. Tell me how that works.
We have plenty of water for growth. One thing we've done a great job of, and I commend the folks who did it, is creating the Truckee Meadows Water Authority. There's water for 50,000 more homes in our area, in northern Nevada, in the Truckee Meadows area, which is a tremendous amount of growth. When we think about, we're absorbing homes at somewhere around 1,000 a year at this point. So we've still got a long ways to go. Reno's maybe 1,000, 1,500. So even with all of that, we've probably got somewhere between 15 and 20 years of growth that we could still do and have plenty of water for. And one thing they did a couple years back was they took the worst drought years over the last 50 years and ran them back to back to back, the worst years back to back to back for 20 years, and we still don't run out of water. So we have plenty of water for what we need to do and for our growth here. Now, is it prudent for us to build all the way up to the point where we don't have any water?
Right.
No, but we still have some time.
Still good to be conservative with water.
Yeah, and we do have to do that. Our real problem is not water in, it's water out.
Right.
Where our sewer plant is 65 years old. It's using 65-year-old technology to treat the water that's going back into the Truckee River. And with that, it makes it harder for us to have that growth. So our limitation is really more on the sewer end of things than it is on the fresh water coming in. Because the level that we have to treat it to get it back into the Truckee River has to be such that downstream we're not affecting wildlife and other homes, and especially all ends up at Pyramid Lake. Is we don't want to. That's a self-contained lake. There's no out to it, so all the junk that ends up down in Pyramid Lake, it just stays there. So we can't contaminate that lake. So it's very important for us.
So that actually is a really good transition, because I did want to talk to you about the Truckee Meadows Water Reclamation Facility, which I think people don't even realize, don't know, have no idea what that is. And like you said, it is the plant that filters the water that comes in when we flush our toilets. That's what goes out to Truckee Meadows and Truckee Meadows Water Reclamation, or TUMWAR. So tell me a little bit about, I know a lot of our budget, we have to budget, we have to pay for a lot of the repairs and things that are going on out there. That plant is very important. And it's I don't know, just talk a little bit about that for me, please.
Just being 65 years old.
Right.
Think about that technology from 65 years ago where we were. I think we didn't even have black and white TVs. Maybe we did have black and white TVs. But it's, where we are today, how would you know that you can carry around a computer in your hand that talks on a phone and talks to all the different, things that you do on your phone you take for granted today.
Right.
So imagine being stuck 65 years ago where you got a black and white TV and a party line phone. That's in essence what we have out there.
Right. But we're still doing an amazing job with making sure that water's clean. Yeah.
Yep. And we do that, and we meet our environmental standards. We're bumping up against them. We can put in, I think it's 500 pounds of nitrates in the water a day. We're at about 400 and 425 in there. But, we have to find a way to treat that water better for the future, for our growth too. Mm-hmm. But I think one of the things that we've looked at is what can we do to transition from the old technology to a newer technology. And I think our first bill starts for just the slightest change at about $150 to $250 million. If we were to make a wholesale change on the sewer plant, we're bumping up against $750 million to $1 billion.
Wow.
And you divide that by the residents in Reno, Sparks, and Washoe County, that's a huge tax bill that, I don't know how we afford that. So we are currently with the new, it's not, what they used to call earmarks is now congressionally directed funds. We are applying it for all the infrastructure grants we can find, because it's so important for us to get that plant to a better state. Because the last thing we want, number one, I want you to be able to flush your toilet.
Right.
Because as soon as your
I
toilet
do too.
So your toilet doesn't flush, I'm the first one you're going to call and have some very unkind words for.
Right.
Two, it's keeping the river safe and clean for everybody to enjoy for generations to come.
Yeah, and I think it shows that we are proactive here at the City of Sparks and City of Reno in Washoe County. Absolutely. And I did want to talk to you a little bit about that collaboration between City of Reno, Washoe County, just kind of transitioning. We, during COVID, it's been a really tough time. We talked about that earlier. One of the great things that we did together was to build the Nevada Cares Campus. And can you talk a little bit about that collaborative effort and how important that is?
That probably was the single best thing to come out of this whole pandemic, is we as a group, and we formed the Community Homeless Advisory Board, or CHAB board, about 3 years ago. And what was happening before on the homeless issue is everybody had a silo. And this silo only took round pegs, and this silo only took square pegs, and this one only took triangles.
Right.
And we've kind of knocked those silos down and said, we have somebody who's a square peg. Where's the square place for them to go? And we're breaking that down. So we're making some big changes in that area. But when the CARES campus came up and they said, you know what, we can spend some money on that, we chipped in. I think Spark was in about $4 million of the $16 million price tag to build it.
Was that with CARES funding, or
with CARES money? That they said that we could do this kind of a deal, and we have now a 900 bed facility for emergency beds, and we needed that because obviously our homeless population is growing, and we needed a place for them to go. The transition as we go along here is to provide all on-campus services. You know, what the easiest way to probably explain this is 75% of the homeless people have some type of mental disability or mental issue, health problem. And 25%, it's more of a lifestyle change, lifestyle choice for them. So we can help that 75%. And I think that's where we're going to get to in the coming years, is where we'll have services and we can get that 75% off the drugs and the alcohol and get them functioning to where they're going to have a job and a place to live and have a life. The 25%, I just don't know how we're going to deal with them, other than we're going to probably be a little more strict with how we deal with them in the future. I would be remiss if we talk about homeless. I don't talk about our HOPE team.
Just what I was going to ask you. So
our HOPE team has just done a fantastic
yes.
job. We haven't had people on the river in many months now. Although I just lost a vet for lunch. We had some creep over the line this weekend, and so I'm going to owe a friend of mine a cheeseburger, but we will get that straightened out, I'm sure, in the next few days. But our entire approach with the HOPE team is to offer services. And these folks that have been homeless have been approached by a myriad of people. They want to help, Well, and then the help, it comes for a little while and then it goes away. What they've learned is the self-defense. Well, I can't get out of homelessness because my dog doesn't have a license.
Right.
I don't have an ID. I don't have a cell phone for a callback. I don't have, whatever it is, I don't have new socks. And whatever the issue is, our HOPE team says we can do that.
We can help you.
We can do that.
Yeah.
We can do that. And we continually go back there and we don't arrest them. They're very proud of the fact we've only arrested two people in about 11 months. One was a lady that was having a mental health crisis and had an arrest warrant for her. And at the time, it was during a bigger cleanup on a camp. That was the best way to deal with her, was to arrest her and then help her get services later. The other guy was a pedophile. We don't want those guys running around in our city, so we had no worries about arresting him. So, but the rest of that is, thousands and tens of thousands of contacts with the homeless population, and our guys are making a huge difference. So much so, about once a month we get a letter from somebody that we've helped, and it's just heartwarming to hear the great things and the relationship that they have with our officers, that they're like friends. And
because we have 3 full-time officers that are down there.
This was their calling to help their community in that type of policing. And like I said,
and I know you have ridden with them and been out, and you have seen success stories.
This is one of my favorite stories. I was out with our HOPE team, and there's a gentleman that was living behind the Sparks Museum in a bush there. Literally in the bush. And his problem was he had some mental issues, but he was pretty much a bad alcoholic. And when he would get drunk, then he would get very mouthy and aggressive. So they've been contacting him, and the reason why this works is because our guys contact them every single day. And it's like if I walked into your bedroom at night and every 15 minutes I tapped you on the shoulder and said, "Do you need services yet?
Can you accept him?"
I did that all night long. Eventually you would find a new place to sleep, or you would get some services. So that's we just bug them until they get services.
Right. And a lot of them just have no idea that the services are even available. And I know our HOPE team's working with advocates throughout the community and charitable community organizations and such that are really helping these people.
It goes back to that round peg and round hole. So
Right.
I might have been contacted as a homeless person by the square peg guys, but I'm a round peg guy.
Right.
So I needed, we got to find that cross pollination of these different ales. That was disheartening to me to find out we had over 350 beds still available
Right.
that people are not in.
In the CARES campus.
Not just in the CARES campus, but throughout the community.
Okay.
In all these different areas. So we need to do a better job on that. We are working on doing a better job of that. One of the things we do in the city of Sparks is we keep a database of all of our people, so we know that when we contact John A., that John, his problem is he's an alcoholic and he's got mental or PTSD or whatever his other underlying issues are, so that if somebody from Washoe County Sheriff or University Police contact him, they'll know what his problem is and they don't have to start the process over.
Right.
We can help in that aspect. We're hoping to get Reno on board with this in the future. We'll see what happens.
I know. I just realized we didn't quite finish the story about the guy behind the Sparks Museum. And I wanted to ask you, because that was a really very classic story, that he recognized you someplace else later.
I'm there the day he decides to get services. And of course, when that happens, that's a joyous occasion for everybody. The most team came, and so it was pretty cool to see how excited everybody got, and especially him. I was sitting out at lunch on the front of the Great Basin having lunch, and here he comes walking down the sidewalk there, and he goes, I recognize you. And I said, yeah, I was there the day you decided to get services. And I said, I'm Ed Lawson, I'm the mayor. And he goes, well, it's so nice to meet you. He says, I want you to know that I'm going into the program on Friday. This was a Wednesday, about 5 days after I'd done this ride along. And I'm going into the program to get help for my alcoholism. And I want you to know, though, Mr. Mayor, I have not had a drink since that day that you saw me.
Wow.
And it was pretty emotional.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, to see those success stories, and I know I've actually been out with the Hope team when they delivered Christmas presents to a family. I mean, it was amazing. And the family was just beyond, they just couldn't believe it. So it's amazing to see what our Hope team's doing. And I know that we are our Hope team is kind of an example that other cities and counties are really looking towards.
Yeah, we're starting to get some national recognition
Yeah.
for this. And I don't know what the latest count is on the number of people that we've gotten into services, but the last time I heard, maybe a month or two ago, was over 80.
Wow.
We may be over 100 now, but that's 100 people that their life got changed just by the fact that we have police officers who care,
Yeah.
who really want to do a good job and help people. And I think that to me is the best part of it all.
And it's interesting. One of those police officers actually came to me and said, hey, what do you think about kind of a celebration event that we have been able to offer these services to people, and our river is clean and it's safe for everybody to enjoy? And we jumped on that, and we've been doing these great community events once a month down in Rock Park. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, that's just a fun event. Just a community event that there's the band that plays are former Sparks employees that were retired.
Whitewater Retooled.
Yeah, they're awesome. They play some very good music that I was really surprised at the quality of when I heard them the first time. But now they're just an amazing. But to see the families out there, to see the folks just having fun. I was watching a mom and a daughter last week, and they're dancing away, to some oldie songs and just having a ball. And
Well, it was fun to see you out there dancing, actually.
Yeah,
I think I might have a picture of that.
I don't know if you can call that dancing, but what I do is kind of shuffle a little bit. But I had fun. I was dancing with the ladies out there that insisted that I get up there and dance with them, and I did. And you know what? It was fun. We had a ball, and everybody was laughing and having a great time. The food trucks had come out. The food was excellent.
Yeah.
They do a wonderful job. And, everybody's just having a great time, just being together and having fun. I don't know how to really explain it. It's just,
Yeah.
It's just a kick in the rear to see those folks with these big giant smiles on their face.
And just enjoying it. Well, I have to say, this past event that we had, July, I think 22nd, was so fun because I had a lot of people coming up to me and saying, was that your mayor? Is that your mayor here? Oh my goodness. Is that your council members that are out here? Is that your city manager? And our city manager and all of our council members and you come out to these events. And it's not only these events, but ribbon cuttings, grand openings for businesses and stuff. I think we're approachable. I think our leadership is approachable. And how important do you think that is to us, our council members and such?
I think it's extremely important. I mean, that's the way it's been since I've been elected. I mean, there's rarely a time I go to the grocery store, I don't get someone to stop me or say hi or something, and I love it. And they always say, "Can I ask you a question?" I said, "Certainly. You can always ask me a question. I may choose not to answer it, but you can."
But you normally do.
I normally 99% of the time I answer the questions.
Yeah.
But it's folks are just there. There's not really a celebrity in there, but it's just a different information that we have that the average citizen doesn't have because we obviously immerse ourselves in that daily. And government works a little different than it does in business, so you have to walking that line here. That with my business background, it was important for me to be business friendly along with being family oriented. Mm-hmm. So we initiated a kind of a saying is find a way to say yes, and we've been working on that for the 10 years that I've been here. And we don't always say we can, say yes every single time. But what we're going to do is explain for the business owner, the new business owner who wants to come here, these are the things we got to get done. So the answer is yes if we were willing to get over these hurdles. Mm-hmm. And this really stemmed out of an issue that happened, it was probably 10 years ago now, that I found out that there was a clean manufacturing that wanted to go down off of Glendale. And they made surgical instruments and high-paying jobs, $60,000, $70,000 a year jobs for these guys to make this very precise surgical equipment. And it happened to be, so they want to go in this building, and the first thing that happened, they said, the city said, well, you don't have a fire hydrant close enough. And so they packed up and they went somewhere else. Now, the simple answer would have been to say, for $20,000, you could put a fire hydrant right in front of your business. And we would have had all these great jobs with these high-paying people there, but I think they even left the area. I think they went to Carson City. So we lost out in Washoe County, big time, on a simple thing as a fire hydrant.
Right.
So the answer is yes, we got to move a fire hydrant. And now we can make that happen.
Right.
So we're seeing that now. It's working. There's sometimes we can't get to yes because of it's just too far of a stretch.
I think it's knowledge too, and getting people that information that they need because they don't know what they don't know until we can say, well, this is the pathway.
I think our community services does a wonderful job.
Yes.
We stumble every once in a while just like everybody, but that's human nature and that's okay. As long as we learn from it, that's all I care about. Let's learn from it, let's move on, let's be better next time.
Well, I hear all the time thank you. Thank you for returning my call. Thank you for explaining that to me. Your community services told me this. And I see, because I monitor all of our social media, and you'd be surprised how many people are on there saying, hey, thank you. I called and it was really nice that somebody actually answered and explained something to me. So I think that puts us in kind of a unique and just really shows who we are here at City of Sparks.
And that's the thing that's kind of, that we're having some growing pains right now too, because we're no longer a town. Mm-hmm. We are becoming a full-fledged city.
Sure.
And so we have some growing pains in all of this too. So if if there is a day that we have an off day, please, let's come back and let's work on it again, because we are making this transition. We have problems now we never had before, like parking issues in our neighborhoods even. I mean, just a lot of things that, because of the Great Recession and because of the pandemic, that we're short-handed in a lot of areas, just like every other small business around.
Sure.
That can't find people to hire. So we're experiencing some of the same stuff here, but we're working on it. We've identified the problems. We know what we need to do. the one thing that drives me more nuts than anything is illegal cars parked on the street and travel trailers and then blocking of sidewalks, so that, if I'm walking my kid in a stroller, that I have to walk out in the street to go around your car because you were so insensitive to park your car across the sidewalk.
Right.
That kind of stuff is just not being good neighbors, and it kind of drives me nuts. So I continually, with the city manager, like, we need to do this, got to do this, and so I think we have a full complement of police assistants now. So if you're parked illegally, be prepared to get a ticket, because
Right.
we're coming out.
And people can get online on our Sparks Police page and our website, and they can put a complaint in, and somebody will come out and handle that. So
Yeah, it's just a safety issue.
Sure.
Here, more than anything. I know that we had 2 travel trailers pull in, on either side of my cul-de-sac. So when I pull out, I basically pull my car all the way out into the middle of the street in order to see. So, that's just not safe for anybody. And what if I was a kid riding a bicycle,
Yeah.
and a car comes in and runs them over? So we want it to be safe. Just be neighborly.
Yeah.
Take care of your stuff.
And on that note a little bit too, we do get a lot of people that complain about things, and they're upset about something, and maybe it's they don't like the way that maybe a city center, or they don't, they have parking issues. And I do hear a lot of complaints, and my suggestion is we have a lot of boards and commissions that people can serve on. And I'd like to get your opinion on really inviting the community to serve and help us out here at City of Sparks.
Absolutely. I mean, there's so many different boards and commissions you can be on to serve, that you pick the area, and there's a simple application that basically asks if you're a registered voter, not even what party, just if you're a voter,
Right.
and do you live in the city of Sparks, and why do you want to be on this particular board or commission? And then generally about 90% of the time that comes to the mayor, and the mayor gets to choose who goes on those boards.
Yeah.
And I look at those all the time for different vacancies and whatnot. And so we have some very, very good people that serve on our planning commission, our charter committee. I just re-upped all the charter committees that's assigned them this morning.
Yeah.
So it was, just kind of fun.
We've got senior boards. We've
The
got,
senior board, Donald Abbott resurrected the senior board. Marcy's doing a wonderful job with
Marcy Cooper Smith. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. She is one
Ball of fire. Yep.
We had a meeting with her a couple weeks ago. She's just a ball of fire all the time.
Yep.
And she's awesome for our senior community. But those kind of deals, the Parks and Rec Commission, there's all kinds of different ways to get involved. And I think it's important, if you want to make a difference in your city, just get on the board, learn a little bit about it, understand why there might be an issue. Why is there, why is there weeds in the median? And that's the one that we get actually a lot of complaints on.
Yeah.
That's a lot of it goes back to, once again, manpower.
Yeah.
So would we change the way we do that in the future? Probably. We probably wouldn't put it so that, there'd be so many weeds could get in there. But, these things that we learn from, we're not perfect. That's
right.
And nobody's perfect. And no one anywhere in the world is perfect. So it's just be patient. If you want to make a change, get involved.
Right. Exactly.
It's real easy to stand on the sidelines and throw darts.
Yeah.
It's real hard to be in the field and field those darts and overcome. So
So we do invite people to, hey, be part of the solution. Yeah.
That's exactly why I ran for office in the beginning.
Yeah.
I wanted to make a difference in my community.
Well, coming to the end here of our podcast, and I did want to make sure there wasn't anything that you wanted to mention that maybe I forgot to ask about, or that you wanted to talk about before we end.
I think, my biggest deal is to keep in mind that we are a family-oriented community. We're making those strides. We just approved another all-abilities play park at
yes.
Meadows, which is one of the most fantastic things in the world. I have a friend of mine whose daughter is has cerebral palsy and confined to a wheelchair, and so he's big time on helping those type of abilities. But it's the part that's really cool is to see the autistic families that you can bring your autistic child to these play parks, and they have a good time just like everybody else does. And literally all abilities, from whatever a physical infirmity to whatever mental infirmity that you may have. The park encourages you to get out of yourself and to be something, and it gives a great respite for the caretaker.
Right.
You know, that hour or 2 hours of just slow down and take a breath for a minute.
Yeah.
And watch the kid have fun.
And I know we've had a lot of input into what that park was going to look like at the Sparks Marina, and we have Powwow Park as well. And so I think we, like you said, family oriented is really important.
You know, the Rodeo Foundation gave us $125,000 or $150,000. Forgot how much it was. It was a lot of money.
Yeah.
My Rotary Club, the Rotary Club of Sparks, gave $65,000 or $75,000 towards this park. It's that important to us. You know, it's a community that we really love. Our community here, and we love what the folks are. And we love that. We're still trying to remain to be a town, but we're becoming a city.
Yeah.
And that's that balancing act that we're going to have to work on in the coming years.
Yep. Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I so appreciate you being my guest for our first podcast, and I look forward to many more so that we can really delve into the issues and what's important here to us and here at the City of Sparks. So thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the Ignite Sparks podcast and that you can join us next time to find out what's happening here in Sparks.